As Americans paused this past week to honor veterans, a Utah family remembered one of the first soldiers killed in the Vietnam War. It's been 50 years since Donald E. Smith was killed in action. Sam Penrod shares how his family is honoring his legacy.
October 8th, 1964. My dearest daughter, Donna.
They are the last words Donna Burke has from her father.
I'm over here in a strange and alien country to me, working to stop the threat of communism from spreading throughout the world.
And she was just 14 years old the day this telegram arrived to her home, informing the family of Sergeant First Class Donald Smith that he had been killed by a landmine in Vietnam.
This is probably my most prized possession, this letter from my father. He wrote it in October. He was killed on November 13th, and we received it in Bountiful in the mail on the 16th of November.
Condolences poured into the family.
Here's one from President Lyndon B. Johnson.
As one of the first Utah soldiers to be killed in Vietnam, Smith's family was front and center in the press. Here on the front page of the Deseret News, his widow was quoted in a headline, "He mustn't die in vain."
Her plea was, don't let him die in vain. And I'd take that a step further. Don't let them die in vain. They gave up their lives so that we can have our freedoms today. We need to appreciate those freedoms and the liberties we have here in America.
In 1964, the Vietnam conflict was in its early stages. Smith had volunteered for a one-year deployment as a military advisor.
I was 7 years old when my dad was killed in Vietnam.
It would take years for Lori to truly understand what her father was trying to do in Vietnam when he made the ultimate sacrifice.
It gave me a deeper appreciation for our country and what those that are so willing to go and sacrifice what they've given us to have a better country, and it helps me appreciate our country more. Feelings
that began on that cold November day when their father was laid to rest.
They did the 21-gun salute, and I mean, it was absolutely silent. And then they played taps, which, you know, is really endearing to me. And it was absolutely beautiful.
Two of Smith's brothers-in-law would also find themselves serving in Vietnam after his death.
And it causes me to be a little bit more sober, to realize that they gave everything they had and that they should be remembered with gratitude.
When the veterans came home, they were not wanted home except by their families. And now we see how these veterans are honored. We need to keep that in mind, that they are saving lives, not only American, but lives of other people who want the freedoms we enjoy.
And for Michelle, who never knew her grandfather, his military example has been an inspiration as she has supported her husband and cared for their children during his deployments to combat zones.
It does make a big impact on a family. Obviously, it's been 50 years and since my grandfather died, and it's still impacting our family and adding to our heritage, I think, in a really uplifting and beautiful way.
It is especially helpful for their children.
They appreciate, I think, more the sacrifices of not just the soldiers, but of the families.
And from his grave in Bountiful to his name on the Vietnam Memorial at the Utah State Capitol, and here in Washington, D.C.,
I've gotten a lot of hugs just standing there,
where Donald E. Smith is etched into the nation's Vietnam Veterans Memorial. His daughters know freedom isn't free. They say there is a price to be paid and sacrifices made.
A slice of our life was taken away. I don't know what our life would be now if he would have lived, but I know one thing, we did inherit from him a love of our country, and we're so proud to be Americans.
And 50 years later, a father's plea to his daughter is still ringing true. Never take freedom for granted.
His final sentence is, please do not let me stay here a year for nothing. Love, your father.
Sam Penrod for Deseret News, National Edition.